Now we're going to talk about factoring binomials, and what I'm going to do, we've got two binomials, and I'm going to distribute it first, and then I'm going to factor it, which is the opposite of distribution, which we're going to be putting it back in the form that we're seeing it right now. I'm going to have this x hit both of these terms, so I've got x squared plus 2x, and now the 1 is going to be multiplied by both of those, plus x plus 2, and now we've got x squared plus 3x plus 2. So really quickly, I'm going to tell you the formula to do this. Two sets of parentheses. Break up your x's. What times what gives you 2? That adds up to 3. Oh, sorry. Step 3 is, look at your signs. You have a positive here. That means you're either going to have two positives or two negatives. But then you look to see that you have a positive here. Well, that means you have two positives. I don't know why that's becoming a perfect circle, but I kind of like it. What times what gives you 2 that adds up to 3? 2 and 1. Well, look at that. We just factored it. It's reversed, but it's the same thing. So, let me give you 3 different scenarios. For the 3 scenarios, the good news is step 1 and 2 are the same. 2 sets of parentheses for each one. The only difference between these are going to be the signs. Break up your x's. We're going to look at our sign here for each one. I still have it on eraser. So we're going to look at these signs for each. That's step 3. Determine what your signs are. Now, depending on what... Okay, so let's look at this far right one. What sign times what sign gives you a positive? Well, either 2 negatives or 2 positives. But then we come and look here, and we see that that's positive. Therefore, your signs are both positive. So we're going to put both positives. Look here. What signs, when multiplied together, always give you a positive? Well, either 2 positives or 2 negatives. But now we look at this sign, and we see that that's negative. So we're going to put 2 negatives. What 2 signs, when multiplied together, give you a negative? Well, that's a positive and a negative. So we're going to put 1 positive and 1 negative. Okay? So now that we have our signs, now we're going to come to the far left one. What times what gives you 6, whose sum is 5? Well, that's 2 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 plus 3 is 5. What times what gives you 8, whose sum is 6 is 6? Well, that's 2 and 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 plus 4 is 6. Now, we have to look here. That is a negative. That means, oh, actually in this one it doesn't matter. We could put the 2 in the 4 anywhere. This is where it matters. What times what gives you 10? Now, if you have opposite signs, for these you do whose sum is. What times what gives you sum whose sum is 5? What times what gives you 8 whose sum is 6? What times what gives you 10 whose difference is 3? Okay, what times what gives you 10 whose difference is 3? Well, 5 times 3 is 10. And 5 times 2 is 10. Here, I'm supposed to be a math teacher. I don't know my times tables. So, 5 times 2 is 10, and 5 minus 2 is 3. Now we've got to look at this sign. So do we want it to be 5 minus 2, or do we want it to be 2 minus 5? This is negative 3. This is positive 3. This is negative 3. So I'm going to put the 5 with the negative, and I'm going to put the 2 with the positive. The nice thing about these, it's extra work, but you can always check to make sure it's right after you finish it. You can do that by factoring the binomial, which is a skill we've already learned. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and factor this. X squared minus 5x plus 2x minus 10. X squared minus 5. Why did it do that? Plus 2x minus 10. This tablet is possessed. Oh, now it doesn't erase. That is so annoying. Okay, let's just pretend like that arrow is not there. Now, if we combine these, whoops, I forgot the square. So we've got x squared minus 3x minus 10, and we got it correct. See how they match? Now, if we had put the 5 here with the positive, we would have had plus 3x, and that would have been incorrect. So let's do a couple more example problems. I don't know what's going on with our tablet. And I'm going to try 2 with both positives. So easy. Well, actually try it on your own. Pause the video. Okay, so easy. 2 sets of parentheses. So, and we know that we can just break up the x's. We can do step 2 really easily. Step 3, look at the signs, positive, positive. Same here. Positive, positive. So we're going to have positives on both. For this one, what times what gives you 12 that adds up to 7? 3 times 4 is 12. What you can do before you actually start it is list your factors of 12. There's 6 times 2, and there's 3 times 4, and there's 12 times what? Times 1. So what times what gives you 12 that adds up to 8, 6, and 2? We finished that one. Give this one a try, and please ignore the arrow thing. So 2 sets of parentheses. And now look at your sign. Look at the second sign. It's a positive. That means you either have 2 positives or 2 negatives. Now look at this sign. 2 negatives. Okay, break up your x's. And we're going to have 2 negatives. Now, what times what gives you 20 that adds up to 9? List your factors. There's 4 times 5. There's 10 times 2. There's 20 times 1. So we're going to have 4 and 5 because they add up to 9. And this one, what times what gives you 20 that adds up to 12? 10 and 2. Now this one, we look at this sign. What times what gives you a negative? A positive and a negative. So we're going to put the 2 sets of parentheses. We're going to break up our x's. Parentheses, break up the x's. Okay, we're going to have 1 positive and 1 negative for both. What is going on? 1 positive, 1 negative. Now we have to say what times what gives you 30 whose difference is negative 1. So what times what? Let's list our factors of 30. 5 times 6. And I think we found our answer for the left one. There is 3 times 10. There's 15 times 2. There's 30 times 1. Okay, what times what gives you 30 whose difference is 1? Well, that's 5 and 6. Now we've got to look at the sign for the 1. And the sign's a negative. So I'm going to put the 6 with the negative. I'm going to put the 5 with the positive. Because negative 6x, if I do this, I get negative 6x, and I get positive 5x. Take the difference, and you get negative 1x. There it is. Okay, so if I went out and distributed, I would find out that after I distribute this, I get the same as this one here. I'm going to actually start using this highlighter on my video. Does it work? No, it doesn't work. Oh, I messed it up. Hopefully you get the point. Okay, let's look at this one. What times what gives you 30? That gives you 29. Whose difference is 29, I mean? 30 and 1. The 29 is a positive, so we want to put the 30 with the positive. And we're going to put the 1 with the negative. And there's our solution.